Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Again, this channel is for any architect, interior designer that wants to learn about AI and know how to implement these into their workflow, into their daily life. And I really encourage you to kind of look at the previous videos, specifically on this one is the introduction to Midjourney, because this is the part 3, which we're going specifically to the workshop. The first video was about the introduction to Midjourney. The part 2 was about creating a spreadsheet, a cheat sheet that you can use to help you collaborate more with LLMs and Midjourney. And finally, we're in the last part of the video, which is the workshop, and explain you a little bit of how it works. So let's go into it here. So let's start with, as I mentioned in the previous videos, like there's a few Midjourney. Really, you can use the Discord or you can use the website. So I really recommend you to, if you're starting with Midjourney, or even if you have already have some experience with Midjourney, I really recommend you to use the website more, just because it's more user friendly. It's easier to get to the logs and vary things like that. Whereas in Discord, a lot of that you can go to the settings, or you have to kind of put a dash something. So it does feel a little bit more for programming people, whereas here it does it for every level, which is a lot more user friendly. So I really recommend you to at least start with this one, and then try the Discord if you want, but I really recommend this one. So let's start with, we're gonna start with the website UI. So a little bit on this website UI, it's kind of, this is what you will see at the very beginning, right? So you start the exploration, the explore page here, and this is pretty cool because once you click on one, you can kind of see the prompt, you can see the aspect ratio, you can see the stylization of each one, and it's very cool to kind of being able to explore what other people are doing, but not just that, but actually explore the prompt. So here, for instance, it's so cool because you can tell, like, this was a very simple prompt. Like whoever created this didn't have to go like a full 3-paragraph to generate like an amazing image of this prompt. It just literally said Dungeon and Dragon, simple young pirate, ugly face standing on a ship, right? Midjourney couldn't even get the ugly face. But I'm saying, like, it's great to see what other people are doing. So that you got the explore page, you got the create page, which here is where you will actually put your prompt, right? Like, and we're gonna go through it, but I'm just gonna give you a really quick overview of the UI. Here's where you have the edit page, the editor. Here's where you will bring your image or the URL, and then from there you can really do the edits or the retexturing of the images. We'll also go through this in the workshop. Here you'll have personalization things, where whether or not you can just use the Midjourney default style, or you can kind of create your own styles here. You can really do this with, if you want to create a global style, yeah, you have to go through a lot of images to create your global style. Otherwise, you can create like mood boards or things like that. For instance, I have a mood board for watercolor, sketch styles, I have for epic realism. So it's great because it does kind of help you create your own style, not necessarily that it's LLM, but it's just like it helps you stylize your own way, and that's why you can kind of create a mood board, and you can whether turn it on or turn it off, which is great. Here you have your organizer, where really you have all the images you have created, and I haven't really put a lot of emphasis on this, but you technically could create new folders and organize them in specific topics or specific things that you want. In that way, you kind of keep everything more organized. Also, you click on it, you can hide stuff, you can describe, you can vary, you can go back, upscale it. So yeah, it's definitely useful. I haven't used it honestly, but it's kind of the way you organize it. Here you have the chat, right? So you can kind of see, it's a little bit more like, it reminds me a little bit like a social media thing, but it reminds me a lot of it like with this Explorer tab. But that's kind of cool. General chaos, and you can like chat in a few different items here. Here you have tasks, you have the help, updates. You can have here, you can change the mode. And here you have your login. But that's a very quick overview of what you can do. Now let's go a little bit on the prompts, right? Like, so on the previous videos, we talked about 2 methods of prompting, which one was the going broad and then go more specific. And then the other one was to kind of start a little bit more specific right from the beginning. So let's start with the method number one. So a method number one, and maybe you see that I've done this before, you can start something with broad and then go more specific. So let's go and say a contemporary residential home, right? So whenever you do this, if you want the AI to kind of give you more, you want it to be your thought partner, where it's gonna give you a lot more ideas, then it's great to start very broad and then start getting more specific on what you want. So let's see what it gives me. So it started like 35 seconds, right? It gives me 4 images here. And let's say that I decide, like, well, you know what? All these are great images. They're fine, but I don't really want that. So I click on this, it will copy the same prompt and I can kind of start building on it. So I say a contemporary residential home in a suburban environment, right? And let's say comma, let's just say I'll say the home is single story with a pitched roof, right? And then here you can see that you can change the stylization, right? Which says here, you know, the more you stylize it, the more Midjourney would influence on the image. It's kind of allowing more creativity, which I normally, generally speaking, is good to kind of leave it in the standardized version. You normally want to keep these low. These more like chaos. And let's say, yeah, global profiles, let's say off. So Midjourney kind of gives me their own style here. And you want to leave it all most of the time in 6.1. Raw is to kind of get more photorealistic renderings, and landscape is good. So at the beginning of each image, yeah, you should start with the settings and adjust the aspect ratio, whether or not you want a portrait. You have a specific board or mood board that you want to use for your specific renderings, right? So that's something to take into account when it comes to generating images. So here are some images that it's giving me, right? And let's say, I like this one here, right? So I come here and, I'm just gonna say, let's just do one more thing. A pitch roof. The home has, well, actually, let's just say, yeah, you know what, it's doing well, but now I want a watercolor. I want a watercolor painting of a contemporary home. So let's say what it gives me. So you see how this method, you're building up to it. Like you're building from there, you're really narrowing down what you want. Specifically, not just the home, but style of the home, the composition of the home, whether or not you want watercolor. You see how great it is? And that's like, something that you want to do. And then later on, we'll go more into, other things as far as the seed and all these things. But let's say I want that one, so I can download that. Now you can always just come here, right? And say, okay, so I'm gonna, let's say I come here and go to ChatGPT here. And if you want to be more specific, right, you can come here and tell, like, hey, you can tell ChatGPT, hey, I act as an experienced architect and designer with skills in photography, blah, 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 design style and material qualities, right? So, and then you will give it the sentence. So let's say you want to give it something that maybe was not too specific, but something that was a little bit more in this aspect here, right? It's not too broad, but you want to be more specific, right? But you want ChatGPT to help you with that. All right, so along with that, you will get like a very nice detailed prompt that you can actually use for Midjourney, right? Now, with this though, I really recommend you to edit it, right? Because Midjourney is just ChatGPT is gonna create a very elaborate thing that Midjourney might not understand fully exactly. So you really need to kind of go through it. A lot of it, you have to understand that you are the thought leader and the AI is the thought partner. So what Midjourney or ChatGPT are giving you are just recommendations. So you can start with that, but you, for instance, could say watercolor painting of a single-story residential home trunk suburban environment. Yes, so you got that right. The house features a sharply defined pitch roof. Yes, that got that right. Composed of a harmonious mix of natural wood cladding exposed on concrete and large floor-ceiling glass windows to ample and natural light. Okay. The facade showcases clean lines of geometric forms and subtle overhangs on shade and dynamic visual appeal. Not sure about that. All right. The entry is marked by a recessed door with a dark metal. No, I'll say frame in warmth wood cladding, comma. But you see how you really need to edit this, because at the end of the day, you don't want the AI to be the thought leader. You are the thought leader. The AI is the thought partner, which is giving you ideas, right? But just for the sake of this, let's just let it run and let's see what it gives me, right? Let's see. And again, there's no one is better than the other one. Technically with this one here, you have more control because you're giving it more description, but ultimately you can generate that. I want to teach you is like both methods are great. For instance, you can argue that I like this one a lot more than these ones, right? But you have to kind of realize also that it's either or method could work, right? But this is just kind of showing you a little bit on the both methods of how it would to elaborate a prompt here. Now we're gonna go a little bit to the controllers here. So a little bit on the controllers. Let's say I really like this one, right? And then you have these controllers here, which is whether or not you wanna keep using this, you wanna vary it a little bit, you wanna vary strongly, you wanna upscale it. You know, once you kind of have this finalized and you wanna download it, you can actually upscale it, you can rerun it, you can put it in the editor. So for instance, let's say I wanna go to the editor here, and you know what, I wanna actually, let's go here, and let's say I wanna edit this and I wanna remove that, right? So how would you do that? You say a watercolor painted contemporary home, residential urban home. So let's say I'm just gonna see this and I'm gonna see if it just deletes it. Otherwise, I would probably have to be more specific, saying no signature or something like that, right? But hopefully, sometimes it's obvious that what you want out of it, right? So for instance, they delete it, you see, and that's the image that I want. You see how he was able to edit it? That's great, right? You can edit it a tree. You can go and put like a, you know, maybe we can do a car here, but that's how the editor works. And then you can really come back here and go to the right click. I'm sorry, not here. Oh, here's where you have the controllers. Here you have the brush, some there, and then you will upscale the image from there, and it will take it back to the create tab, and then from the create tab you will have the controllers again, right? You will click on it and it will take you all the controllers here back again. So that was the one style there. Another thing we can do with this is retexturizing. So a way to retexturize this is saying you have to kind of give it a new prompt. So let's say we want to keep that, but instead of this I want to say hyper realistic image of a contemporary residential home, right? So with this one here, you can also use the InPaint to see what are you gonna retexturize it. But here I want to just retexturize the whole image, and I want it to still give me a hyper realistic image of that rendering. And look how what happened. We went from that to that. Look how amazing that is, right? Like look at that. Like that is amazing, right? So that's another tool you can use, is the retexturizing part of it, which I thought it was very interesting. Another thing you can do is mood boards, right? So let's say I want that. Oh, one more thing. Something you can do is change the sizes of this. So you can, let's say you wanna, you know, you kind of like how centered it is, but you kind of wish you could see a little bit more on each side here. So you can do that and resubmit this, and it will, you know, expand what you already have there, in the case that you feel like you're missing some sky or you're missing some things there, you can use this. So besides that, we're gonna kind of, now you see that? Besides that, we are gonna go to the mood board here. So yeah, so as I mentioned previously, the mood board here, it's turned off, but the mood board here is really kind of you adding your own style. It's not necessarily creating your LLM or anything. It's really just adding your own style. So for instance, here in the watercolor ones, look all these images that I have here. So all these are being influenced by the style that I'm giving it, right? So let's say that I do want to kind of have like, let's say a sketch style, right? So I turn on the personalization one. I'm gonna retexturize it, right? And I'm gonna say and a sketch image. Now here, I have to make sure that I go to the profile, the sketch style. Now, without that, it will still give me a sketch image, but I want a specific one that I have already stylized it, that I know it works. And with that, I'm gonna resubmit that. And let's hope that it actually gives me the right result. I maybe should have put a sketch drawing, I feel. But regardless of that, it was trained on the other profile. So you see how it's giving me what it's like in a sketch image based on the sketch that I've given it. And then from there, of course, it's gonna give me a few items here. And if I don't like any of them, I can just maybe say, hey, I want it to kind of look more like the, oh no, maybe I should have picked one. But the good thing is, like, if you don't like the result, you can keep prompting it and you keep adjusting the settings until you get something close that you want, right? So that's the mood boards for you. Now I'm gonna show you a little bit of how to delete something by using a prompt, right? So you see how, I hope this works, but I have not tried this one before. Let's say we really like this one, right? So we really like this one. We are gonna upscale that one, right? Because we don't want to be in the retexturizing anymore. Let's say we really like that one, but after a few meetings with the client, let's say we realize that we really don't want, and I don't even know it will take that, but let's say we don't want a fireplace, right? So that looks like a fireplace, and in the meeting we decided, like, hey, I really don't want a fireplace, and that does look like a fireplace. So with parameter you can use, and maybe I should have just used a different example, right? So let's see if I can reuse this image. Otherwise we'll just reuse a different example, because sometimes it has to be obvious. I feel like right now, I think we might be able to use it, right? So in sketch image, contemporary residential home. Okay, let's wait, it's 94%. All right, so now we have this image, right? So let's say here, let's find an element that we might be able to, so let's say here, it seems like there's mountains here. So let's say we don't want mountains. So here we can say -- no is for you to take out something out of the image that maybe is bothering you or you don't want. You can say -- no mountains. Right? So by the time it regenerates the image, it should give you an image that has no mountains. Now, is it gonna, sometimes you have to keep testing it. Sometimes it's not 100%, but the great thing is, like, once there's something specific that you don't like, just say -- no and just put that specific thing. Here for this specific one, it seemed like it changed a lot, right? It took out the mountain, so maybe I should have gone to the retexturizing it. So here, let's say, here I'm gonna say no mountains. Oh, and let's retexturize it, and let's keep doing that. What else? Another thing we can do is, if for whatever reason you want a specific tile, you can always use a tile for a material. So for instance, if you see how now it took out the mountains, because you said no mountains, so now there's no mountains anymore. So that's a way you can do it. So now let's go back to here and let's go and create, let's say, white black marble tile, right? So you want to kind of get a texture out of that. I know that there's a lot of people say, hey, get a material out of this. And I'm like, yeah, you can do that. You just have to kind of know the trick of how to do it. So this is kind of what it will give me. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Let's go back again to this. Create. I forgot that we are in there, right? So let's actually turn it off, right? So it keeps the, yeah. So let's see. So yeah, as I'm saying, the only thing you need to know really is the trick of how to really do that. And once you do that, you can just bring it to Photoshop. For instance, we would like something like that, right? So let's say we say, now of course you need to kind of give it more detail, right, on that. But like here you can reuse this one and then say dash dash. Maybe I should have included the seed here. So it gave me the same tile here. Now this is not a bad example here, but I want to make sure that it's tileable, right? Like I feel like this one here will not necessarily apply. Okay, so here we go. Look at this. So now it gave me that tile, right? Now, if you want a specific one, right, what I should have done before was doing this, and then saying dash dash tile. And then here, and like if I go to, right, it will have kind of get the image reference here, right, and then I will have done it like that. But anyhow, so for instance, once you have this, you can download it, you can open it in Photoshop, right, and with that Photoshop you can go ahead and then go to, I believe is pattern preview, and look at that. So still, maybe it's not seamless, but it's great to start generating that first image here with that. How about, okay, so then the last ones I wanna show you. All right, so now going to the next example. Let's say you want this essence, but you want it in a different, example here. So we're gonna do this one. So you can click on this and you can copy, right, a few things. So you can copy a seed here, which you can use that as a sref, right? So it's just like as a reference image that you are doing it. So for instance, you can come here later on and say apple jungle, and then say dash sref, and then give it the seed. Right, and it will try to keep that same atmosphere and style that you gave it to the last image, which is great because in the case that you don't have a mood board for it, or in case that there's a specific aspect that you like about that, we'll take that sort of style and kind of bring it to that. So that and that. And again, from there you can really start saying, okay, maybe it was not that one. Maybe I want to stylize it more, right? So maybe you can come here and say, oh, you know what, this is fine, but then I'm sorry, I'm just gonna go here, and you want to remix it here, and then you wanna sref contemporary jungle, and then you kind of say dash dash sref, and you copy the seed, and then let's say here you stylize it 600 because you really want it. The more you stylize it, the more is it gonna look like the style, right? Maybe here it was maybe the stylization of it maybe was too low. And then the last thing I really want to touch base with you, you see how it starts kind of generating, well, this one here maybe didn't do good, but in a lot of them you start kind of generating that essence, right? Okay, and then the last one here was the public versus private subscription here. So whenever you are, unfortunately that is mainly for premium users. So for whatever reason, if you want to say, if I would like to update, right, manage my subscription, manage upload. So let's say if I want to manage my subscription, you can see that here, right, you have the stealth image generation. So that's on the stealth image generation, even for the pro plan. So these ones here are for if you want to keep your information or your images private and you don't want it to share with anyone, then you can kind of update to the pro plan or the mega plan, and you'll get that image generation. So it's more private to you. In that way, you're make sure that it's you're having your own privacy here. And that's it for the workshop. That I feel like those are the main tools you're really gonna use. And again, we have gone through 30 minutes, and I think that what I have taught you right now is that 20% is going to generate 80% of the work. And as I mentioned on the first conversation, I mean, it starts by you utilizing it daily, or every time you have a project, ask yourself the question, how can AI help me? And in this particular case, how can Midjourney help me generate better product for my client or for my own project? How can it help me speed out the process, generate better ideas, generate better content, generate better presentations? And from there, you're gonna really start working on different ways of doing that, optimizing workflows, and it's gonna save you a lot of time, money, and it's gonna improve your product. So I'll keep posting. If you have any recommendations, let me know. Hope you like it.